Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today I would talk about the Su-25 just because I have spaded it. Usually I don't spade vehicles which are end of the line, but with the Su-25 they decided to add a loading screen to it, which meant that if you played 100 missions in it, you got a unique loading screen. So I thought, you know what, why not? Why not spend a few days playing it? Also, they added a decal as well, so if you get 100 kills in it, you get a unique decal as well, which I thought was pretty cool. So I thought, you know, why not give it a go? And over the weekend, when we were doing Twitch drops, I played a lot of the Su-25 just to kind of get to grips with it, just kind of understand how it flew. So, from a spading perspective, it took me 80 games. And in those 80 games, I had a 68% win rate. I had 191 air kills, so about 2 kills, 2.5 kills per match, and 37 deaths. So you can see it was pretty good overall. I was dying about half the time that I spawned, so overall not too bad. And as I said, that was from being stock to spaded, so that's about a KD of 5, just over, when it comes to the vehicle. For the loading screen itself, so I needed to play 117 games, so that basically meant that I didn't get 70% activity in 17 of those games, 65% win rate, so the win rate went a little bit lower, 287 air kills to 55 deaths. So overall, kind of kept it basically the same. So when I got it spaded, I had a 5.2 KD, and when it came to the 100 games, I had a 5.22 KD. So it didn't really change too much, and the win rate actually went down a little bit. That could just be down to matchmaking or everything else. The amount of SL I made in this thing was only 1.12 mil. That's because of its general multipliers being pretty low. I played the actual tech tree one. I didn't play the premium one to be able to spade it out. So my experience in this thing was pretty good. It was, I would call it meta defining because of its missiles and also because of its countermeasures. Its countermeasures basically mean that you can just keep popping them over and over again with periodic, and the whole battle you can pretty much just have countermeasures going constantly, so people have to come and engage you with guns. And since this thing is incredibly maneuverable at very specific speeds, the only thing which, or the only two things which are going to outmaneuver you are generally F5Cs and also stuff such as the A10. Everything else has to get to a low speed to be able to engage you, and can't really do that because a lot of these jets are designed to go a lot faster, so they have to keep setting up on you over and over again, forcing the overshoot, and then you can hit them if you defensively fly around the back. It happened quite a lot with this machine, and had a really nice time. Even with just the R60s, this thing felt really good. With the R60Ms, it gives you an extra opportunity to be able to head on people and also kind of just go after them. I don't actually think a BR change will change this thing in its effectiveness until they actually jack it up a little bit more, because pretty much every game that I played was 9-3 to 10-3, because that's the meta BR right now, because at least for America, which is the dominant nation still, they have the F5C at 10-3. And they also have a lot of vehicles at 9.7, 10.0. The AV8s, for example, the A10s as well, the premium and the standard one. You got the F4C, you got the F8E, the FAU2. All of these vehicles you see quite a lot because America is the dominant nation in air, because they're really, really good. So even bumping this thing up to 10.0 won't change its matchmaking, because as I said, 10.3s just face that. The meta in air is really stagnant around that BR right now, which is why stuff like 9.7s get absolutely canned if they don't have countermeasures, because they just face 10.3 constantly. Same with 9.3s at the moment, which is why what needs to be strengthened is actually the 10.7 bracket at the moment. The 10.7 bracket is pretty much non-existent, just like when you look at ground, 10.7 and 10.3 are the places that don't really exist at the moment because of the top BR. So overall, when we have a look at vehicles like the Su-25, the matchmaking they get is really good, but moving its BR up, I don't think it's going to affect it until it gets to like 10.3 or 10.7, if that is the case. These vehicles are incredibly strong if you do not get engaged upon to start with, even though it can defensively fly well. Eventually, after burning aircraft with much better engines are going to outmaneuver you, and they are going to be able to take you on. You know, if a pilot knows what they're doing, you can't force the overshoot because they just go up and down, and then eventually you will die. But because most people are flying F5Cs and because they're premium players, they don't necessarily know what to do when it comes to the Su-25. The general loadout that I ran on this thing, so I took 2 gun pods instead of the 4 when I unlocked them. The reason why I took 2 instead of 4 is because the absolute firepower of the main gun on this thing plus the 2 gun pods is enough to be able to deal with any enemy. And also against ground targets. You don't need that extra firepower. There's no need for it. So less weight, therefore, by only taking 2 instead of 4. The max speed warning on this thing is super annoying. Basically, it's one of those vehicles that always has to tell you that you're going too fast. Anytime if you're at altitude, going above like 780 or 790, it will tell you you're going too quick. And then at lower altitudes, anything over 850, 860, it'll tell you you're going too quick. But this thing doesn't start breaking apart until about 1,000 kilometers an hour. You can push it to usually around about 940, 950, but you don't really want to do some extreme turns on that area. If you're annoyed about the warning that it gives you, then just stick it at about 80% throttle and it'll be fine for most of the time. It won't overspeed or anything like that. That is something to actually think about. You know, the overspeeding issue with this thing is kind of annoying. I have ripped myself a few times. I'm just going a little bit too quick. Luckily, it's got some really nice air brakes on it. And even if you have to dump a bunch of energy, the machine can gain it quite quickly back because of its 2 engines. The only missile that I'm afraid of in this thing is the AIM-9L. The AIM-9L is the only missile I've run into that has actually been able to get through my countermeasures. Because this thing has over 200 countermeasures on it, that's the difference between the standard Tech Tree one and the premium one. The standard Tech Tree one basically gets double the amount of countermeasures. One of the things that I've done is I just stick it on flare priority, so 2 sets of flares, and just periodic countermeasures, so it fires 4 at once. So the only missile that's been able to get through that is an AIM-9L a few times. So that's something to note as, you know, the vehicle comes around. Now, the other thing that comes along with the vehicle is, of course, the fact that it faces a lot of vehicles which it can with its missiles. The R60Ms are insanely good, especially against stuff without countermeasures. I don't know how anything is supposed to fight this thing when it doesn't have countermeasures. I'm actually going to stay away from this BR for a little bit after spading this thing, just because of that fact. I don't know what you're supposed to do against a vehicle like this. One thing I have learned, though, is they're pretty useless on EC maps because it's not really quick enough to do anything. It takes too long to get into position, so you're basically just there bombing bases. It does get napalm, which is pretty cool, or fire bombs. So you can, annihilate bases, which is pretty good. I think it's actually wrong to run this in a ground pounding setup, which is something that I see a lot when it comes to aerialistic. I think it's actually much better as just a sole fighter with the 2 gun pods and the missiles. You can get a lot of work done, and as shown by my stats, you can kill a lot of stuff. This thing really is meta-defining at its BR. I'm surprised that we don't see teams of it against each other, but then again, America is still incredibly strong at this point, even if they can be pretty much annihilated by the Su-25. This thing is nuts. People are going to enjoy it for a long time coming, and I don't know how you balance this thing at all. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman675, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Jerry Prevolt, Megadino King, Orange Tail, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Uncle Bean, Sem Arslan, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.